Folks, if you would come actually just in front of the stage, everyone come in front of the stage, not behind. Just fill up the area in front. You can literally, don't be shy, come in front. Just fill up this area if you would. Come on, come on.
If you can hear the sound of my voice, clap once. If you can hear the sound of my voice, clap twice. If you can hear the sound of my voice, clap 2,497 times. Good morning. Good morning, and welcome to the day of service, the King Day of Service at the Girard College, founded in 1848. Good morning to my friend, Sir Todd, and all of our partners in this amazing day of tribute and service to a very great man who helped in 1965, back in August of 1965, with the freedom fighters and walked around the walls here. So in 3 short years, it made me possible. And it made some of our brown boys and girls possible to be at this amazing place. It's a pleasure to be with you today and to kick off this day, the King Day of Service around the city of Philadelphia. And it's my pleasure to welcome all of you to this King Day. We're honored, as always, to serve as the signature partner in the 13th year at Girard College. The event, of course, 27 years old, but it's the 13th year that Girard College has served as the signature site. So we're very proud of that. Give it up for Girard College and Global Citizen, 13 years of putting on this wonderful event. As we stand here today alongside all these amazing leaders and community partners and our healthcare heroes, I saw Dr. Stanford backstage. She's here. She's here. We can feel the presence of justice that Dr. King spoke of. We all want to continue to make meaningful progress by replacing tension with peace, racism, and equality in this community. The students here at Girard deserve our best efforts every day to achieve justice against violence, against inequity. They come from the communities that have been hit hardest, not only from this pandemic, but by decades of systematic racism and inequality. So the themes that the day will hit today are health justice, voting rights, gun violence, and earning a living wage. Those are the things that are important to Global Citizen, and that's why we are here today. Events like the King Day of Service will demonstrate the importance of our partnership and Girard College's commitment to the vision of becoming the campus for the city, so that we can share the resources that we have here, continue to create opportunities, and become an active partner in creating a more just future for everyone in Philadelphia. We especially want to thank our healthcare heroes at CHOP and the Black Doctors Consortium for providing, amen again, and providing critical testing and vaccination services throughout the city in this fight against COVID. Their tireless effort cannot be celebrated enough. We want to thank Global Citizen for continuing to partner with us 365 days a year. Thank you so much for being here and kicking off this wonderful day. I want to bring back our partner in this fight, Mr. Todd Bernstein, the president of Global Citizen. Thank you so much.
Thank you, James Turner. It is great to be here again for the 27th annual Greater Philadelphia Martin Luther King Day of Service. We thank you, JT, as you are known to your friends, for this incredible partnership, because this is an incredible institution. So we're grateful to be here. Thank you all to our sponsors, some of whom are behind me, to my staff colleagues who you see in the yellow shirts, who are passionate about the work they do. And they are tireless in all our programs. Top of today, top of mind is health and safety. And that's, in fact, why we are here. Normally, we would have several thousand people in this room. But many of the projects, as you know, are virtual. Some are in person. Today is not just a birthday celebration. It's an opportunity to make Dr. King's legacy of racial and social justice our mission too. Not just today, not just for one day, but every day of the year. Our theme, as James Turner mentioned, is combating racism and building community. And there are those 5 key elements. In 1966, Dr. King said, of all the forms of inequality, injustice in health is the most shocking and inhuman. So here at Girard College, our focus is health justice, targeting underserved communities. And from 9:30, beginning in a few minutes, to 12:30, we will have free COVID testing in the Welcome Center, led by Dr. Ayla Stanford behind me and the Black Doctors COVID-19 Consortium. In this very room, Children's Hospital of Philadelphia will be leading vaccinations for young people between the ages of 5 and 11 and everyone else. In addition to that, we will have voter registration for the kids after their vaccinations. We will have those purple tables set up that'll highlight a program of Global Citizen called Reading Captains. Kids will be reading stories about the civil rights movement, using coloring books, watching King speeches here, because this is very much of an educational event too. This is part of an ongoing campaign where we work with neighbors in communities all over the city, using the block captain concept to empower people block by block to provide the necessary resources to promote literacy for young people. We will be giving out PPE, and as I said, from 9:30 to 12:30, everyone is welcome. I hope that from this call, people will begin to make their way down. And I might also mention, thanks to Dr. Stanford, Dr. Ayla Stanford Health and Equity Clinic on the site of Deliverance Evangelistic Church will continue to test and vaccine people till 2:30. Philabundance has been doing wonderful work all year long, every day, and we will have food distribution sites around the city, which of course is an effect of the pandemic. Also, the highest form of active citizenship is the right to vote, which unfortunately far too many of us take for granted. We know that fundamental right is under attack. And that's why volunteers across the city will fan out today to kick off an ongoing voter registration and education campaign at more than a dozen sites. And we'll hear from him in a couple minutes, but my friend of 3 decades, I think, Senator Vincent Hughes, is leading that effort today, and he leads that effort every day. He is a champion for civil rights. Also, City Commissioner Omar Sabir. Later this afternoon, everyone is invited to join us virtually at 3 o'clock for a reflection discussion on Dr. King's legacy, voting rights, and action, what we can do, not just today, but every day. And then Mike Incenzo from PICO is here. The 32nd annual Philadelphia Orchestra King Tribute Concert will take place not on the campus here as usual, but at the Kimmel Center, and that is underwritten by PICO. So we're delighted to have all of you here today, and we're going to hear from a few people. We were expecting Mayor Kenney, but understandably, he is in a different place. He is at the funeral service for the 12 victims of the recent fire. So we understand that. However, I think we will hear from him now. I hope.
Good morning to everyone at Girard College today. For the past 27 years, more than 2 million people from all ages and backgrounds throughout our region have honored Dr. King's life and legacy of social justice through citizen action. Thank you to Global Citizen for starting and leading this national movement and for continuing to provide year-round civic engagement programs in our communities. This pandemic has highlighted just how critical equitable access to healthcare truly is, particularly in underserved communities. That's why health justice is the theme of today's free COVID-19 testing, vaccination, and flu shots at Girard College. Today's events are possible thanks to the Black Doctors COVID-19 Consortium, Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, Janssen Pharmaceutical Companies, Johnson & Johnson, Consumer Health, Independence Blue Cross, Gateway Health, and AmeriHealth Caritas. I'd like to also thank all 48 King Day of Service sponsors. As I've said repeatedly, we must embrace Dr. King's legacy of social justice and citizen action, not just today, but every day. Thank you to the many volunteer and organizations who have joined us today in honoring Dr. King and his ongoing living legacy.
Thank you, Mayor Kenney. And now we will hear from another champion of voting rights. He is one of our U.S. senators from Pennsylvania, Bob Casey. Hello, Senator. Can you hear me, Senator Casey?
Yes, Todd, there we go. I'm unmuted. Hey, Todd, thanks very much for this opportunity. I'll be brief, but I want to thank you and Global Citizen, the elected officials who are with us today, President Turner, as well as Dr. Stanford and others who allow us this opportunity to help celebrate Dr. King's Day. And especially today, we want to thank the many volunteers who for years and even now more than a generation have lifted up the people of Philadelphia on this day and every day of the year by their work. Today is a celebration, of course, of service. Dr. King's great words, everyone can be great because everyone can serve, inspires us today. Of course, his words about justice ring loudly today. And as we celebrate his inspiring words and his uncommon courage in the face of confronting injustice, we must take action. Take action as he did so often. Take action in our time to protect the right to vote. We've seen just this year alone an avalanche of voter suppression bills all throughout the country in various states. As Senator Raphael Warnock said, quote, some people don't want some people to vote, unquote. That's what we're seeing. So we have work to do on a day like today. I have work to do this day, this week, and going forward. So here's what I'm going to do this week to do my small part to pay tribute to Dr. King. I will vote this week to pass the Freedom to Vote Act. And I'll also vote in that same act by voting in favor of that to vote in favor of the John Lewis Voting Rights Act. So those two bills will be combined into one bill. But I also have to do more than that. I will vote to change the Senate rules to allow these bills to pass with 51 votes, not 60. We cannot wait to protect the right to vote. We have to do it now. Otherwise, we can't quote Dr. King when he talked about bending the arc of the moral universe towards justice. Today and this week, we have to act, and I have to vote, and we're going to keep fighting for the right to vote. Todd, thank you, and God bless you and the volunteers today.
And I might also add, Senator Casey will be joining us at 3 o'clock for our virtual discussion on Dr. King's legacy, voting rights, and citizen action. Thank you. Thank you, Bob. Our next speaker, you've no doubt seen, particularly in the last 6 months to a year, actually a year and a half, around the 2020 presidential campaign. He has been not just a leader here in the Commonwealth, but across the nation to preserve the right to vote and to fight against voter suppression. Please welcome our Attorney General, Josh Shapiro.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Todd, the room may look different, but I know that spirit of service still exists. It exists here, it exists on Zoom, and I know it exists in so many places across this great city and across the region today as people go out to do service in their way, with their family, with their friends, with their coworkers. And let me thank our corporate sponsors who are here, who are dedicated not just to their places of work, but to the broader community. Thank you to all of you for being a part of this. We appreciate you very much. Now more than ever, we are called upon to serve. Now more than ever, your service is required to meet the many challenges that we face. The pandemic, which has changed the outlook of this event today, has laid bare so many of the inequities that exist in our Commonwealth and in our country. But we didn't sit back and do nothing about that in the face of seeing those inequities. No. Dr. Stanford and her team went to work and said, we're going to do something about those inequities. And we're going to make sure that everyone, white, black, and brown, can get a shot in their arm and protection from this deadly virus. That's real leadership. That's real service. Those inequities that exist are exacerbated today by forces who are trying to undermine the progress that Dr. King made. The kind of progress that he talked about right here at Girard College. The progress that you can begin with at the ballot box. Senator Casey talked about the work that's going to happen in Washington, D.C. this week, and we are grateful to him for voting to protect voting rights. But know that right here in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, as Senator Hughes knows, there are 30 bills right now making their way to the governor's desk. Thankfully, he'll veto them. That will try and make it harder for people to vote. And let's be real. They're not trying to make it harder for people who look like me and Todd to vote. They're trying to make it harder for black and brown Pennsylvanians to vote. And there's a reason for that. Because when we look at the kind of progress that Dr. King talked about the need to make, whether on healthcare or on the economy, the forces who are trying to make it harder to vote are saying, we don't want you at the table of progress. We don't want to hear your voices. We want to make it harder for you to be part of that coalition of the possible. How are we going to defeat that? Not just with a governor's veto pen, but by all of you doing your part, from Maggie to Dr. Stanford, When Dr. King was here at Girard College, Mr. President, he talked about a coalition of conscience. What that means is that each of us have a responsibility to be part of that coalition, to not just preserve the progress that Dr. King and his allies made, but to build upon it. And that's what today is all about. Each of us doing our part, whether it's our healthcare heroes, making sure people are tested and vaccinated, whether it's our children, being alerted to the challenges that we face and doing something about it, whether it's great elected leaders like Senator Hughes going to Harrisburg to fight back against these forces of evil. It's going to take each and every one of you to fulfill Dr. King's hope and promise in this Commonwealth and in this country. And so I want to end where I began by saying thank you. Thank you for being a part of that coalition of conscience. Thank you for doing your part. And I'm proud to be right there with you in this battle to protect the heart and soul of our democracy, and of course, to protect the legacy of Dr. King. Thank you all so very much.
Thank you, Josh. He's been mentioned maybe 60 times in the last 10 minutes. And would you please welcome State Senator Vincent Hughes.
So you see my mask, right? You see my mask, right? Come on, Philly, let's talk like we know. Let's act like we know. You see this mask. It says vote. It says vote. Thank you, Todd. Thank you, Josh. Thank you, everybody, for coming together. Thank you, Philly. I always remind everybody on this day of service, everybody, that there's no larger gathering of people in any community in the country larger than the city of Philadelphia. We hold the record. You should be proud of that. You are setting the example. More people come together here than any community in the country, and in fact, any community in the world on Dr. King's Day. Be proud of that. Celebrate that. But understand this. As much as this is a day of service, this is a day of action. This is a day of action. Take this phone number down. Listen to what Senator Casey said. Take this phone number down, 202-224-3121, 202-224-3121. That is the number that you can call to reach any United States senator in the country. And you tell them, be like my Senator Bob Casey. Vote for the John Lewis Voting Rights Act. Vote for the Freedom to Vote Act. Do it. Do it now on Dr. King's Day. You can call that number now. 202-224-3121. And they say you got to say it 5 times. I think I'm at number 4 now. 202-224-3121 is the number. Text somebody. Let somebody know. Make that phone call. This is a day of action. 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 And the action exists in many fronts. The Attorney General, my good friend Josh Shapiro, said it very clearly. The action requires all of us to be engaged on several fronts. Monitor, pay attention to the court case going on in Harrisburg right now in Commonwealth Court about the discriminatory way we fund education here in Pennsylvania. Pay close attention to what the lawyers on the other side are saying. And Josh, they say don't go too far out on the Senator Hughes, but I can't. I can't. I can't. The lawyers are saying on the other side, why should every Pennsylvania citizen study algebra or biology? Why is it a requirement for every Pennsylvania student to study algebra or biology? Don't we need hamburger flippers too? You heard me. Now that's as far as I can go on that, because the lawyers say they may want me to testify. And if I can't block my way out of testifying, all right? But that's what they have said. It's been published. It's been written about. It's been talked about. But the lawyers on the other side think that all students in Pennsylvania are not equal. If that was the case, would we have Dr. Stanford right now? Would we? If somebody believed that she couldn't learn and she couldn't dream, Lori Jones, all the rest of us, what is this that we're saying here? So this is a day of service, but it's a day of action. Register somebody to vote. If you're already registered, because everybody's here is registered, I know that, right? Yes, okay, all right. We've established that point of fact. Get somebody else registered to vote. Young people in high school, say to your high school, college, high school classmates, register to vote. Votespa.com is the simplest and easiest way to do it. But do that. Let's turn this dream into power. And let's turn that power into change. Change for the people that we care about. Change for the people that Dr. King died for. Thank you all very much.
Vince is always hard to follow. She started out as a local pediatric surgeon. She knew about the problem of health disparities, particularly among Black and brown people. And she did what Vincent Hughes spoke of. She saw a problem and she turned the whole issue into action. She's done it locally, but she has become a national example. Please welcome Dr. Ayla Stanford.
Good morning, everybody. I can't help but reflect this weekend because it's exactly 1 year that we administered our first vaccination in North Philadelphia. But thank you. But what many of you don't know is that I had to fight to get that vaccine in North Philly, because back then there was not a lot of vaccine and it was only allocated to folks who needed it and who you thought would take it. But the narrative was that Black and brown people did not want to get vaccinated. They were too hesitant. So when the vaccine was rolled out, there was none in the community. So I had to fight for that and advocate to get it behind closed doors for that to happen. And that's how Philadelphia became the #1 city in the United States, reported by Bloomberg, to have the highest percentage of African Americans vaccinated. And so as I look at all of your shirts that say health justice, that's how you march towards that. And I appreciate everyone supporting us as we vaccinated people for 24 hours and as they stood in the cold. And yes, we gave them that service. But is that what justice looks like in healthcare? That you wait outside in 12-degree weather for 4 and 5 hours to get a vaccine to save your lives? We can do better. And so when the weather was horrible and we knew it was coming, I reached out to Leslie Richards and I said, can I have 1 SEPTA bus for 4 hours to keep people cold? And thank you. And when you see her and all of the SEPTA drivers that have been sacrificing their lives, literally, because they're exposed constantly to virus, thank them for what they have given to our city. So right now it's better, but there's more work to do. Omicron is largely, and Delta, attacking our unvaccinated and our vulnerable and our children. And every time I hear of a newborn baby or a 4-year-old that has COVID, it breaks my heart, because it means that we as adults and we as eligible people did not do our part to protect them. And so what I'm saying to you, my charge to you as we strive towards health justice, is we all know one person who has not been vaccinated. We all know one parent who has not vaccinated their child. Is to listen first to why, to educate them if there's been misinformation, to do it more than once because it will take more than once, and then go with them to encourage and support them. That's how we get to better days. That's also service. That's also action. And each and every one of us can do that. I thank you for your time, for the trust that you have put in me. I am humbled, and as long as I have breath in my body, I will be fighting for justice for all, and particularly the voiceless and the vulnerable. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Stanford. Our last speaker represents a sector that is also very important in this fight for health justice, the health sector. Gregory Devens is the president and CEO of Independence Blue Cross, a key sponsor and supporter of Global Citizen, but also of so many organizations throughout the community. Please welcome Greg Devens.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Todd. Thank you for that kind introduction. President Turner, I want to thank you as well for welcoming us again to Girard College. And certainly on behalf of everyone at Independence Blue Cross, we're proud to stand with Global Citizen, the city of Philadelphia, and all of the other partners represented here and those who weren't able to attend this morning for this great day of service here. We're celebrating, as you know, Dr. Martin Luther King and this National Day of Service. And of course, I want to offer a big thank you to every citizen who serves on this day. It's so critically important. This is a day that is significant for Americans, not just to reflect, but to look ahead. Dr. King both inspired and challenged us as individual citizens and as a nation. For example, when I think of his I Have a Dream speech, which he delivered in Washington in 1963, it crystallized in our national memory as a moment when Dr. King laid out a vision for what America could and should be. But before he got to the dream, he gave his listeners a call to action. He made demands of our nation's leaders and of every citizen. He said, and I quote, "We have come to cash this check that will give us upon demand the riches of freedom and the security of justice. Now is the time to make real the promise of democracy." You heard about voting rights before. Now is the time to rise from the dark and desolate valley of segregation to the sunlit path of racial justice. Now is the time to lift our nation from the quicksands of racial injustice to the solid rock of brotherhood. Now is the time to make justice a reality for all of God's children. Dr. King, of course, left this earth too early before his fight for equality was finished. And despite some progress, there is still much work to be done. So it's up to us, all of us, to challenge ourselves by taking action. You heard Senator Hughes talk about action. This day is about action to eradicate racial injustice and demand excellence and equity, not only from our institutions, but from each other. With this action, we can realize the opportunity and the promise of equality and really build a better, more inclusive society. And that really is what Dr. King stressed for all of us. At Independence Blue Cross, we are certainly taking action to eliminate racial disparities in healthcare. And again, you heard it earlier, Dr. King set the challenge in his own time for that particular challenge as well. He said, and you heard this quote before, "Of all forms of discrimination and inequalities, injustice in health is the most shocking and inhuman." So we're working with partners like the City of Philadelphia, like Project Home, as well as our Blue Cross and Blue Shield colleagues across the country to make sure that no one's home address, no one's economic resources, No one's skin color dictates their access to quality healthcare. It's a measure of Dr. King's singular impact that we still invoke his name for these purposes today. And we want to bring out, when we want to bring out really the best in ourselves and realize the full potential of this nation. So let me close also by thanking everyone for being a part of this day. I hope that you all stay safe and be well. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for being patient as we close out this ceremony and begin the real work. Would just like to conclude this with an iconic song and anthem, Lift Every Voice and Sing.